It is 11:42 p.m. on a humid Tuesday night in Troy, Michigan. Inside a brick ranch-style house that has been meticulously maintained for 30 years, 68-year-old Elena is sitting at her kitchen table. The only light comes from the blue glare of her laptop screen and a single shaded lamp. Her breathing is shallow. Her hands, which spent 4 decades typing legal briefs and raising 2 children, are trembling as they hover over a spreadsheet. Elena is not a gambler. She is not a spendthrift. She did exactly what the brochures told her to do. She maxed out her 401k. She stayed with the same firm for 25 years. She paid off her mortgage in 2021. When she retired 3 years ago, she had $1.2 million in her accounts. She was told she was the success story. She was told she was safe. But tonight, the math is screaming a different story. In the last 36 months, Elena has watched her liquid net worth drop by nearly $300,000. At this current burn rate, Elena will hit zero before she turns 79. She is realizing, with a cold, sickening dread, that the finish line she spent 40 years running toward was actually the edge of a cliff. Elena is not an outlier. She is the new face of the American retirement collapse. In 2026, the speed at which retirees are burning through their savings has reached a terminal velocity that no financial model in 2024 or earlier predicted. The rules have changed, the costs have mutated, and the safety net has been replaced by a tightrope over an abyss. The first reason for this accelerated burn is the death of the 4% rule. For decades, financial advisors told retirees they could safely withdraw 4% of their portfolio every year, adjusted for inflation, and their money would last 30 years. In the economic climate of 2026, that rule isn't just outdated, it's a suicide mission. Consider the data shock of our current reality. In 1996, 30 years ago, the average cost of a gallon of milk was $2.70. Today, in 2026, the cost of basic groceries, property taxes, and supplemental health insurance has outpaced general inflation by a factor of 3. When you're living on a fixed portfolio and the cost of existing jumps by 15% in a single year, your burn rate doesn't just increase, it compounds. Take Marcus, a 74-year-old former engineer in Gresham, Oregon. Marcus retired with what he thought was a bulletproof nest egg. But in 2025, his property taxes jumped by 22% to fund local infrastructure failing under the weight of climate shifts and population migration. Simultaneously, his Medicare Advantage premium spiked as the healthcare system struggled with the 2026 nursing shortage crisis. Marcus found himself delivering groceries on weekends just to keep his heating bill paid. He is a man who designed bridges, now standing in the rain at a stranger's doorstep, wondering how $1 million turned into a struggle for survival. This is the identity collapse. The system promised Marcus that his labor would buy him peace. Instead, it bought him a front row seat to his own financial evaporation. The invisible enemy in this story is the sequence of returns risk, amplified by the volatility of the 2026 markets. When a retiree like Elena or Marcus is forced to withdraw money while the market is down just to pay for a $6,000 emergency roof repair or a sudden medical copay, they aren't just taking out cash. They are cannibalizing their future. They're selling assets at the bottom that will never have the chance to recover. Every dollar spent today in 2026 is effectively $3 stolen from their 80-year-old selves. By the midpoint of 2026, we have reached a nuclear reveal. The middle class didn't become lazy or irresponsible. The very value of labor was engineered to collapse relative to the cost of assets. If you don't own the engines of production, you are simply a passenger on a ship that is leaking fuel. Let's look at the numbers. In 1990, A median home cost roughly 3 times the average household salary. In 2026, even with the recent market corrections, that ratio has ballooned to nearly 10 times. For a retiree, this means that any downsizing plan, once the silver bullet for retirement, is now a trap. Elena thought about selling her Troy home to move into a smaller condo. She discovered that this smaller condo costs more in monthly HOA fees and taxes than her current mortgage-free home. She is stuck in an asset she can't afford to keep, but can't afford to leave. The emotional wave hits hardest in the quiet moments. It's the nostalgia for a time when a millionaire was a person of leisure. In 2026, a millionaire is often just a person one major medical diagnosis away from the poverty line. There is a relatable irony here. The more wealth Americans seem to accumulate on paper during the 2020 to 2024 asset bubble, the more fragile their actual lives became. The pressure is relentless. Every 90 seconds in this country, a retiree realizes they need to go back to work. But the jobs available to 70-year-olds in 2026 are not the high-status roles they left. They are service-level roles. The human micro-stories are everywhere. You see them at the self-checkout kiosks, helping people who are 40 years younger than them. You see them in the gig economy cars, driving through the night to make an extra $40. The fear is not just about the money. It is about the future threat spike. In 2026, the social contract has been shredded. The realization is setting in that the government cannot inflate its way out of the debt crisis without crushing the purchasing power of the elderly. When the currency loses its sting, the person holding the oldest currency, the retiree, is the one who gets stung the most. We are witnessing a cinematic symbolism of decline. The empty fridge light flickering in a house worth $700,000. The ticking of a grandfather clock that sounds more like a countdown than a heartbeat. The silence of a telephone that used to ring with invitations, but now only vibrates with final notice alerts for utility bills that have doubled since 2023. The curiosity spike for those watching this is, if the millionaires are collapsing, what happens to me? If the people who did everything right are staring at a zero balance horizon, what chance does the average worker have? The answer is a truth bomb that most are not ready to hear. The retirement model we were sold was based on a world that no longer exists. It was based on a world of stable prices, predictable health care, and a labor-to-cost ratio that favored the saver. In 2026, the system has turned extractive. It views a retiree's nest egg not as a reward for a lifetime of work, but as a liquidity pool to be drained through rising service costs, convenience taxes, and asset inflation. Elena closes her laptop at 2:15 a.m. She has decided she will stop taking her non-essential medications to save $400 a month. She will tell her children she just isn't hungry during Sunday dinners, so she doesn't have to admit she's rationing her groceries. She is a woman of dignity who has been forced into a life of deception by a math problem she didn't create. As she walks to her bedroom, she passes a framed photo of her retirement party from 2023. She looks happy. She looks safe. The irony is a physical weight in her chest. She worked 40 years to reach the golden years, only to find out the gold was just a thin plating over lead. The emotional descent is complete. We started with curiosity about a burn rate, moved through the anxiety of rising costs, felt the pressure of the 4% rule's failure, and arrived at the existential realization that for many, the American dream has become a math-based nightmare. The 2026 retirement crisis isn't a glitch. It is the logical conclusion of a system that values capital over people and debt over savings. The burn rate is accelerating because the heat of the economy has been turned up to a level the human spirit was never meant to endure. Elena lies in the dark, listening to the hum of her refrigerator, a machine that costs more to run per month than her first apartment cost in rent. She realizes that the paycheck got bigger, but the life behind it got smaller. And the most terrifying part of all, tomorrow morning, she will wake up and the clock will start ticking again. The burn never stops. It only gets faster until there is nothing left to consume. The paycheck got bigger. The life behind it got smaller. Disclaimer: this is not financial advice. The strategies discussed in this documentary are for educational and entertainment purposes only. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Always consult with a qualified financial advisor or tax professional before making significant investment decisions.